short meeting, I suspect, but never know, but that's okay. I wanted to just try to get us back on track and get some scheduling done today, and that's my primary objective today. So Amber, Ashley, if you would please, if you would call the roll.
Sure. Meredith Knight.
Here.
David Raymond.
Here.
Ryan Clinton.
Present.
Tom Farrell.
Here.
Ronald Hasso.
Here.
Drew Flahive.
Here.
And Wallace Greener. He is here, and we may have a couple more come in as it goes, but that's all we have in the way of members right now.
Right. I did get a message from David Smith, and he was running an errand, and he should be on here a little after 4:15 or 4:30. But I did talk to him, so I think he will be coming on that. So the next item I have is public comments. Do we have any public that would like to speak, or any, and that includes all our members, if y'all are part of the public too, if you want to bring up anything new, it's a opportunity. We'll have many more, I suspect. So do we have anybody, Ashley?
We do not have anyone outside of the board at this time.
Okay, great.
Hey, Tom.
Yes, sir.
This is Ryan. I don't know whether it's something that we need to think about or consider, whether it's something we need to pivot at all on, but seems like we might want to hear from the city an update on what happened with all the generators being needed, and that may be something that this group may want to include is at least an emphasis on prioritizing necessary infrastructure. It seems like there were some issues there. I don't know what all they are, so I don't even want to take a stab on communicating what they are, but it does seem like at some point this group might want to at least hear about it.
We can do that. We can do that under the public comments, or we can do it. I think we have the utility subcommittee coming up, and if you don't mind, I'll just bring it up at that time and kind of Amber, you and I can probably go through a lot of that and come up with.
You bet. Happy to.
But thank you, Ryan. I think that's a great deal. City had some very shining stars, I think, down there, and they need to be acknowledged too, and look at the issues we have that came up with that. So let's see, I have the minutes. Item number 2 is discussion possible action on the minutes from the February the 8th, 2021 meeting. And I don't know if anybody's had an opportunity to look at that. And if anybody has, could I get a motion to adopt those meetings? Or we can, if no one's looked at them yet, and I understand that, we can table items 2 and 3 and come back to them at our next meeting when we catch up on that, if that's okay. Has anybody, if anybody had an opportunity to read these enough that they feel comfortable about making a motion to adopt them? Okay, let's go ahead and table 2 and 3. I'll be honest, I read them, but I haven't, it's been a week. The only reason I read them is because when I was down at City Hall, Ashley made me sign some of them. So I had to read them. It wasn't these, but it was some others. So I went back and read them. So otherwise, I probably wouldn't have at that time. I'm going to also table item number 4 for right now, because David may come on at about 4:30. So if that's possible, I'm going to table items 4 and 5, and we'll take those up at a little bit later date. Item number 6 is an update from the Single Family Subcommittee and discussion regarding upcoming meeting dates. Ronald is coming over from P&Z and is be has agreed to be on our single family subcommittee on that. Ronald, would you mind introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about you to the committee on that so we all get to know you? Some people may already know you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ronald Hasso. I serve on the Utility Commission currently and trying to get up to speed with the strike force. I'm really happy to have this opportunity to be a part of this. Next week will be 3 years here in Rollingwood. We've really enjoyed our time here. It's been really good for my family and myself, and happy to help the city out in any way that I can.
Right. Well, we will, I am going to have I have sent out or sending out a schedule of 2 subcommittee meetings on the single family that we can have. I'm doing one next week and one the week after for our discussion that we have on that. The good part is on a single family, we don't need to, we generally are not going to have to be outside in a group. We can do this on a Zoom call. And I'll probably do it on my Zoom call rather than the city's, but I'll make sure I go through Ashley, and I've got it drafted, and I'm gonna send it to Ashley this afternoon after we finish, and she'll send it out to everybody. And again, anybody that wants to be on that call can be on there as we discuss the single family aspect of that. So, and I should have those 2 meetings set up. I don't, let me see if I can find that. But I think it's going to be one next week and one the week after. And they're not going to be in Monday's time frame on that. And I was doing those at 6 o'clock to give everybody an opportunity to get home and speak before we did it. So if that doesn't work for anybody, just let me know and we can kind of change it around. It's pretty fluid from a standpoint of what we have to do on that. So, okay. And that will take care of 6 and 7. Brooke is not going to be on here on our call today on item number 8, the tax rate and bond subcommittee. She has, they've drafted a pretty good analysis, I thought. But she did want to kind of bring up a few things on that. So I'm going to go ahead and table that till she gets back. And she does listen to these after we finish on that. So that works well on it. Drew, I believe you were on there also. Do you have any comments or updates that you'd like to make?
No, none other than those that you just shared, Tom.
Okay, great. Item number 10 is an update from the utility subcommittee. Got 3 points on the utility subcommittee I'll bring up. One is we should have momentarily, and I think I've said this about Amber, I think you and I both have said this 3 or 4 times, but momentarily we should have some data back from our engineers so that we can complete that. But I don't think that we've had that yet, or I haven't seen it yet. So I don't think it's come in yet.
No, they haven't gotten that back to us. We've got a lot of things on their plate with regard to updating maps and a CIP. So I will ask them again where the final numbers are on that.
Just to kind of bring everybody up to snuff, the way it's looking on that, and we've asked them to finalize it and sign off on it, but I think you're going to find that we're at about 50% of our water capacity usage, and we have generally sufficient wastewater to handle most of what we would be looking at on BK's Road, any kind of expansion that we might have on that for wastewater. That we had about 1,100 LUEs of wastewater capacity in the total, and we've used about 600 of that. So we've got quite a bit on that. Now, Ryan, this goes back into that. one of the big things that we have as a backup to our wastewater system is we have a 1 million gallon holding tank, and that's in addition to all of our lift station holding tanks that we have. Ronald, this goes back to the Utility Commission also, that might be useful. Our contract with the City of Austin has a limitation not on how much we pump per day, but just how much we pump per minute limitation. So we can pump wastewater 24/7 if we need to. Now we'll go back into the 5 lift stations we have and the issues and generators we might have. Amber, do you have anything you want to share on that, or you want me to try to take a stab at it first?
Sure. If you would like to, Tom, you can, whatever you think would work best.
This is what I know, and you jump in on that. We knew that during the event, the ice storm, we had one of our lift stations was reported to be offline, which was the lift station number 2 on Hatley. It's a fairly small lift station. It doesn't cover a tremendous large area. We had our we have a big generator that generates sufficient capacity to handle any of the 5 we have. And so we looked at we located the generator, which was located in Rockway Cove. I'm not sure why it was over there. It was just, that's where it was last used, and started it up so that it was powered. I checked the depth of the lift station on Hatley, and it looked like to me that we were only about half full with that lift station. So we had some hours of capacity without power to get there. There's a lot of ice on the ground, and that generator is on a trailer and it's fairly heavy. We did not have our public works at that time in the city. We did have our police officers here, and we did have several volunteers that were willing to look at this. At that time, we had the city reached out. I think Amber reached out and found the third-party contractor that AWR had been using to move equipment, and they agreed to come in and move the generator for us. And they subsequently did. And then we checked out all of the remaining lift stations to make sure that the power was on, in fact, and that there wasn't any problem with the pumps that were working on those. So I went home, not even thinking that we had another problem. Later on, Amber, I'll let you take it from here, because this is where y'all kind of came in.
Sure. Thanks, Tom, and thanks for helping out. First thing we struggled with is we didn't have any chains for our tires. So we had one all-wheel drive vehicle that it was the police department. So we didn't have anything that could pull the generator to all of the lift stations throughout the community. So luckily, like I said, like Tom said, I reached out and asked this contractor to work for us. He used his personal truck to pull the generator around. At first, it was just Hatley, and I can't remember the other lift station that was down. There were just 2 down, and they were going back and forth. And then I think on Tuesday afternoon, the whole city went down except for at City Hall. And there were just certain areas around the city that didn't go down. Luckily, City Hall did not, and the lift station at Nixon did not go down. So we were, I say we, wasn't me. Public Works was babysitting every generator or every lift station. with the generators, the generator around town. We were able to secure another generator, but people continue to use water. And eventually, at some point on Thursday, we were considering whether to spill raw sewage, which would dump into Lady Bird Lake, or to shut down the city's water supply. Fortunately, we had Amy Patillo had reached out to her contacts with the city of Austin and Travis County to put our lift stations back on the critical grid. And then power was restored to all the homes and those lift stations, except for 50 homes approximately on Thursday. So once we had power to the lift stations, we were good. We do have one lift station that has a permanent generator. That is Delana. And like Tom said, we've got a big holding tank out by Delana, but the problem was we couldn't move everything out of the neighborhood. We couldn't get it to Delana. But luckily we didn't have to do either of those, but it was pretty touch and go. The public works staff did an amazing job. They drove around all night, like I said, babysitting the lift stations. They looked at people's homes to see if anybody had a water leak. They shut off their water at the meter for them so they wouldn't have burst pipes. They slept in the city council chambers. We didn't have any sleeping facilities available for them. We don't have shower facilities. So, just really proud of them. They risked, their own safety and chose to come in and serve Rollingwood and make sure y'all had water and eventually get power back on. But I think, and at one point we were nervous about fuel also on Thursday. The chief managed to locate an 18-wheeler who brought in some diesel fuel for us, but we don't have any storage for diesel fuel that we might need. So those were some of the challenges that we faced minute by minute. Anything else that I missed in there, Tom?
No, I think the staff, I would like to say that the job the police did, because the police actually pre-positioned themselves in City Hall prior to the storm, which I thought was great. And they were, now they did get fed by the citizens, and but that's it was pretty interesting. And several of the city employees that were down there at that time, their own personal homes did not have power, and so they really did. I was very proud to see what they did on there. I think you had some of your public works people, Vicky and
Nate.
They were everywhere, so that was great. So generally the lesson is, okay, do we buy additional generators, or do we rent them and have them pre-positioned when we have this type of event, a known storm coming up, and fuel, as well as fuel for them. So the gas generators that I had, we were able to supply gas to them because I have a siphon hose and a misspent youth. So we were able to get gas for those. I just don't have any diesel. So that was a little bit different on that. So, but we were prepared to ride around, and as I told the mayor, I knew where he lived, so we could always get gas. He just didn't have a diesel truck. So anyway, that is Ryan, I think that's the deal in a nutshell. There are some lessons to be learned on this, and some protocols that I think the city will have to put in place going forward with this to make sure that we have things pre-positioned and are readily available on that. The city was like all the rest of us, was assured that yes, you may have a rolling blackout of 20 minutes off, which would not have been an issue. Lift stations, remember, operate on a timer as well as a flow pump. So they don't, they don't run 24/7 anyway. They just run at certain times. So, they've got plenty of capacity in them and they're designed that way. But when you have it off for extended period of time, and it's just so y'all know, this was not just Rollingwood. City of Austin faced the same problems we faced. And so did Westlake and Sunset Valley and every city that was that affected by that. So,
And Tom, I forgot to add too, what we were also unprepared because we have a third party service provider who does routine maintenance to our lift stations and water system. And then also they are supposed to provide emergency support and repairs. And on Monday morning at 10 o'clock, they sent an email and said, we're not coming. And so we were completely left to,
the city relies on its emergency management teams to do that. And I was floored when I heard that. But I don't know if we're going to have this, the good, bad, and different. Had I think the city known that most of the time our emergency management contract, which is what this really was, they provide the excess generators and fuel and that sort of thing. And so they kind of left the city, or that was always my expectation. And I think, Amber, that was the city's expectation this time. And then when they sent an email, we're not coming because it's too dangerous for our employees. I think that's what they said, or something along that line. It made a difference. But this is like an insurance company saying, you had a hurricane, so we don't, we're not going to show up and do anything about that. So, I mean, it was totally inappropriate in my opinion. So, and I think the city spent several hours discussing that with them, the appropriateness of that last council meeting. So, Ryan, does that help? Is there any questions that Vicky can answer or I can answer or on that?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm deeply grateful for the city staff who I think we all agree went way above and beyond their duties to help the citizens. I'm grateful for the city officials like the mayor and Councilmember Patillo for going above and beyond their per hour fee that they get paid for their contributions into the city. And I'm really especially grateful for the volunteers who went out there. I understand that someone went out and got one of his own generators, or someone told me that. I'm not sure if that's true. So thankful for everyone. I guess the part of it that can be good is that we try to learn a lesson from it, and we try to learn where our weaknesses are, and we try to apportion our resources the best we can to address the most critical needs that we have. And so thankful that we got through it. It was miserable at my place. We were stuck. I mean, we couldn't even leave our driveway, and it's pretty miserable over here. I'm sure it was miserable for others too. I do have a couple of questions, and I think my first one is answered. If we had a commercial apartment building or condo unit, and we came across this issue again, would they have their own lift station to take it to the main lift station, which was operating? And so therefore, or would they be using the same lift stations that failed during this?
BK's Road generally, Ryan, is a gravity system that goes down. The line itself is a gravity system that goes down to Delano Lane. So we don't have a lift station on, well, there may be, no, we don't have a lift station on BK's Road.
Okay.
They're all in these are all relatively small lift stations within our city because of the topography.
So would they not need one if something got built on BK's?
Again, unless they're built below grade, and generally they just pump into the gravity line. Our gravity line for wastewater on BK's Road stops basically it goes from the finish line down to Delano Lane. The area, the commercial properties from the finish line to Rollingwood Drive on the north side of BK's Road. And Wally, you know this very, very much so. They have right now are not connected to our system. They're still on septic.
Right, and that wouldn't be true, I'm sure, if a 50-unit condo building went up or something like that.
Absolutely not. You're correct. The difference is at the time we were putting that line in, the state had not finalized where they were going to put BK's Road expansion or whatever. And remember, if we put the wastewater line there and then they come in and say, hey, we're putting the road here, we have to move the line. And this was done in the year 2000, 2002. And at that time, the state was saying, hey, we're going to do this pretty quick. Why don't y'all wait until after we finish doing, and then of course they got, and it may be, maybe the term quick for 20 and 25 years is, I just misinterpreted what I thought.
There's
quick
time and then there's TxDOT time.
It's different. That's all I can say. They came in and did whatever.
But either way, just to cut that short a little bit, if a multi-unit housing complex went in on BK's Road, it would not be subject to the limitations or concerns that we had during that event.
Yeah.
For wastewater.
Yeah, they may have their own internal issues, but it shouldn't be anything from a standpoint of the city.
Okay. And then my second question was really for Amber, and that is, and you mentioned one thing, but I was wondering just from a more global perspective for us, kind of thinking about what challenges this city faces over the next 10 to 20 to 30 years. Did you see anything else? And I hate putting you on the spot, so please just, if you don't want to answer it, you can say, I'd love to loop back with you next time. But I'm just wondering, did you see anything during all of that? Obviously there's, it'd be nice to have a place for your staff to shower if they're going to be spending the nights serving the people of this community. Obviously you probably want, I think you only have one bathroom or something like that. You'd want more than one bathroom I don't know how this community is going to pay you back for what you guys did, but where else did you see, or if you want to again address it next time, that's fine, but I'm curious, where else did you see things that this community kind of needs to know about as far as to be prepared for the inevitable thing that comes up rarely, but is a severe and acute stress on our infrastructure?
Yeah, I think just the understanding that your first responders don't live in Rollingwood. And so, if you want your first responders here when, we need to respond, we need to have some facilities available to them. I am in the interim, because I know that's, a big ticket item. I'm working with Sunset Valley on an interlocal. There might be an opportunity that, they might have some hotel rooms that we might be able to secure. But still, at the end of the day, that might put us in Sunset Valley rather than Rollingwood. And we need to be here. It was great that the fire department, they also had the forward thinking they set up at City Hall. So that way, if they needed to respond somewhere, and they've talked to us about having a better presence in Rollingwood. They've talked to us about if that's something the council would want to do, is build a new City Hall. They'd be interested in having a small satellite office and an engine or a brush truck or something here in Rollingwood, which I think would be beneficial for the community. But we're also going to work on getting our standard operations procedures tightened up and, you know, making sure that we're all aware what needs to be done is getting done in advance of emergency storm events. We're not going to rely on a third party and assume that they're coming.
Amber, I think you also lost your head of public works, was injured during the slipped, I think.
Yeah.
And the rest of the staff just jumped in there. Really, really impressive. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did have some leadership challenges.
So, Ryan, does that answer your question? I hope.
Yes, and thank you again. And if you think of more things like that that the community should hear about, I know this is just one of the conduits and the places that you can do that. But I think there are people that watch these things, although not tonight, it appears. And there are people who go back and watch them later. And you know, these are things that we don't think about as citizens here when we have to decide where we're going to put our financing.
I will tell you one other thing that occurred on that, Ryan, was when we were putting on the chains to the police department, we actually had to remove some bumpers and equipment out of the garage to be able to get the car into the garage to put on the chains. So it was, you can do it outside, but it was, I'm not good at doing that. So I had to get inside. So we did get the car inside, but the police did not have any of our city vehicles undercover during that event. They were all outside.
That does remind me of one more question. Were police and or EMS, were there any issues with homes not being accessible or people needing emergency services that could or couldn't get them during that time?
No, and what happened was the staff were actually getting around on the gators. So luckily they had purchased a gator for the police department and we had one for public works, and that's how they managed to get around.
Ryan, I'll say as a sing out to the police department. Police department recognized that we have people in Rollingwood that need attention during these events, and I will tell you, they did. They went by. They talked to them. We brought, I know, 3 generators to people's houses that needed it with portable heaters and hot food. That I know that we went to them, but they had already reached out and identified our citizens in this city that needed special attention on that, and they got it. I'll just tell you, they did do it. I thought the chief and his staff did a magnificent job on that. So sang out to them because they deserved it on that. I don't know if we'll have another one of these. This is my 3rd ice storm in Rollingwood. And each time it's been a challenge for something. So, but this was kind of, there were some breakdowns. Our third-party contract management, I thought, was created a lot of stress for the city. And then getting our staff in because a lot of them live 30 miles away. And that was a pretty arduous deal because they couldn't drive. There were several of them that could not get here just because the roads are impassable where they were. They were out in the hill country somewhere. So made a difference. But I'm delighted to see the city, I think, came through it and stronger for it and smarter, and we'll figure out how to, I think city will be better prepared next time. And as Amber said, just be self-sufficient in our reliance on what we do. So any other questions from anybody? So I guess the only other question I'll ask Amber is from a financial standpoint. So that's another week that we didn't get good sales tax to add to our pandemic sales tax issues we have. And since the governor and the president declared us to be a major disaster area, will the city be able to reach out and get grants from the feds to be able to cover some of our losses from the city's losses on that?
Yes, we will be applying for FEMA assistance. I believe they will fund 75% of your costs. So we're busy making all the repairs, regenerating anything that we used during the event. That's where we're at now. The dumpsters that are at the top of the hill, we'll charge FEMA for those, charge FEMA for the overtime. So yeah, we will work on getting that.
Right. Do we get lost revenues from our sales tax from those grants? I don't remember that we do, but maybe.
I don't know that they will support lost revenues.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Another little Benny that we had on there. Well, thank you, Amber and Ashley and the whole staff. I know we've tried to express our appreciation to them. So I know they were there. So thank y'all all so much for that. Ryan, number 12, update on the survey subcommittee. Did I lose Ryan for a second? Looks like I did. Oh, Ryan's back. Ryan, is that a good time for you?
Yeah, sorry, my 6-year-old decided this was the time for him to show me his project that he's been working on all day. So I apologize. I had to walk away, tell him it was awesome, which it was, but that I couldn't see it right now. Yeah, so I try to take the feedback from our last few meetings and from the city council, and it seemed to me, and it's everything kind of went to heck when everything shut down, and that was when we were all working on this. And so I probably missed something important, but it seemed that your and I's feedback from city council, Tom, and correct me if I'm wrong, was that they would like us to take a little bit of a step back and ask the vision questions, the big picture questions, instead of just, do you support this policy? Do you support this policy? What do you think about this policy? And so I don't know if people have access to their email. It is my fault that it didn't get circulated earlier, but if anybody wants to pull up their email, Ashley was able to circulate about 4:05, according to my email, a more recent draft. And I just wanted to highlight the first 5 questions. So what I did was I asked very big picture vision questions right up front, because I think that looking back that the council was right, that we needed to ask some really big questions. And so, question 1, what do you want Rollingwood to look like in 10 to 25 years? Question 2, what do you value the most about Rollingwood? What is your highest priority for the city, the future of the city? Question 3, what do you dislike the most about Rollingwood? What would you like to see changed? Question 4, what are you concerned about when it comes to Rollingwood's future? What issues or challenges do you want the city to prioritize? And question 5, what would make Rollingwood better? And the whole purposes of those was just to make it an even less leading than I think it was to begin with, to just throw out there and get some vision stuff, big picture. What is it that you want? What is it that you like? What is it that you dislike? And I'm hoping that we can get some stuff. And David's not here, but he and I have talked about it a little. A couple of neighbors mentioned to me that they'd really like something like a like a small town area somewhere, where people could walk around shops. That might be a very walkable area. Is there any way for us to get rid of some parking requirements, maybe to change up the driveway requirements so that small businesses can create a better, more walkable, more pedestrian friendly space? Can we create a path from up above on Rollingwood to walk down to it so that that can be accessible either by a walkway or by a golf cart? I know I don't have one, but a lot of people in Rollingwood have golf carts. Is there a way for us to have a golf court path down to a town like town center like area for Rollingwood? So those are the kinds of things that I'm hoping that maybe people could talk about those in those big picture questions. And I think that would help. I think I may be wrong, but that would help the Bee Caves commercial committee kind of think, okay, what is it that people want here, rather than do you like this thing? Do you want a city hall? Do you want drainage? Things like that. So that was the idea of throwing those up front. It's possible people get tired out of answering them, but I thought that the council's constructive criticism was valid, that in focusing so much on some of the questions that we've all pondered, it didn't ask the more big picture questions of what do you want in Rollingwood. So that's why I put those up front. I moved all of the questions that dealt with income and things like that to the back, because I think, I forgot who it was, but someone on this committee, I think it was, well, I don't want to say, but one of the comments was, you always put those in the back of a survey because they're the easiest, and people get tired by the end, so you give them the easy stuff at the end. So move them to the back. And then I went through and took a little bit of a cut to any questions that I thought really didn't go to the big question of what do we want the future of Rollingwood to look like. So there were some policy questions in there, for example, about, replacing old pipes or whatever, or, moving water meters. Those are really, I think, council questions. And for us, I think, take a little step back and just have big picture. What is the vision for the community? So that's what I did. I didn't expect everybody to read it before this meeting. Tom, you took a look at it. David took a look at it. And so I think the question then becomes, what do you want to do next, Tom? And I'll turn that over to you. But
Okay.
that was my goal of making some edits.
And Ryan, I thought you did an excellent job, just fantastic. The two issues is, one, we had one of our council members had requested that we include some residential questions, which you did, and I think that will resolve that issue for her. The second is
I may have missed some. I probably should go back, but
I think that I looked at them and I thought they covered the ones that I would have included in there. The other issue was, and we had a little discussion about this today, just on emails, but whether we should include the drainage and stormwater management portion of that. I had suggested we do include that for two reasons. One, that was a big number that was included in our original charge that we got from the city. And number two is, there's a lot of discussion about it. And so that's the only reason I'm not gonna fall on my sword over this, but I'd like y'all's comments. David, you had a few thoughts on that too, if you don't mind, kind of.
Yeah, well, I was just kind of piggybacking on what Ryan was saying with the initial email that went out, like focusing on the vision. What do we have for a vision for the neighborhood? And so I kind of put it under that lens and looked at the questions, and when I brought up those couple questions, that kind of felt along that same lines, where that doesn't seem like a vision question necessarily, as is something we need to take care of anyway. And it's not a long-term. It didn't feel like a long-term goal. That's why we were looking for something we might need to cut to keep brevity and focus. Then I thought, well, that was the most likely candidate, and that's the only reason I made that suggestion.
Okay, and that makes sense to me. Let's do this. I think this went out fairly short time ago.
Yeah, no one had a real good opportunity to weigh in on that.
Why don't we try to do this? Why don't we get if anybody has any comments after you read it, please send the comments. And Ronald, one of the things I've asked that everybody do, that we all do as committee members, when we get a document or anything else, we send it to Ashley and let her send it out rather than communicating too much directly. We do sometime, and that's okay. But I mean, we'd like to, because that includes the whole group in the information chain that comes out on that, which I think is better. So if we could do this, if we could just, Ashley, if you would, when you send that out, or if you have, I think you have sent it out, if you'd follow up with just an email and say, we're asking for any comments that come in on that. And David, I think that's why don't we just put this portion of the drainage kind of on hold until we see what other comments we get from the rest of our committee, if that's okay with you and Ryan, and then go from there.
Yeah, Tom, I don't know if we need a motion on this, but I really feel like it's time to start getting it moving. Yes. And what I would like to do, if everybody agrees, is to essentially give Tom the authority to make final edits and move it on. I think we've talked about it a lot. We've been through it a lot. We've edited a lot. At some point, you got to ship. I think it was Apple's in-house or internal slogan was "Great engineers ship," meaning at some point you got to move your product. You can't just work on it forever. And so I would like for us to just give Tom authority to make final decisions, final edits, and move it on.
Right. Now, certainly willing to do that. If we have a motion on that, Drew.
That's my motion.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Got a second? And I'll do this the same way, Ronald. What the way I've run these is to say, look, if you are opposed, raise your hand, and if you're not, don't raise your hand. So I can kind of see all this. Sometimes I miss. So all those that are in favor of authorizing me to make the final cut on this and to ship this out and to finish it, just keep your hand down. And those that are opposed to that, please raise your hand. And I see no hands up. So by golly, we are in agreement. Thank you very much, Ryan and David, for y'all's hard work on that.
And Brooke and Jeff Marks as well worked hard on this.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate them getting a shout out along with David and you, Tom.
Ashley, we've got somebody else on here that I'm not sure who that is, but and I'd like just kind of pause. One thing I noticed, we always have an opportunity on each item that comes in for public comment, and I didn't call that out, and my bad. But if anybody would like to make a public comment, please feel free to jump in. And that's not only anybody else that's on the Zoom call, but any of our members that would like to comment on anything, please feel free to do so. And I don't see any hands being raised, so I guess we're good to go there. Huh? Okay. Item number 14 is the update from the Vision Document Drafting Subcommittee. I have met, I've talked to, just from a drafting standpoint, I've talked to both Pegasus and Bowie, and I am trying to finalize an agreement with the two of them that they will work jointly on putting together our document, where Bowie would be doing some of the PR and drafting, and we would be using some of Pegasus technical expertise and the data that they had already pulled up. Thought I would have that done by today, but did not. Just could not get the two of them together yet, but I'll have that by the next meeting and have that ready. I'm gonna do this as soon as I get that part of it done. I think Ryan and David and I are on the drafting committee for the vision document. I'm gonna go ahead and let everybody know, and we'll have a little meeting and kind of work on that a little bit. So I don't have a chance to schedule that yet, but I'm very close to getting that done. So, and then I'm going back, and is that David that came in on that's a 310 area code? I don't think it's David. In regard to the BK Road subdivision, I spoke to David today, and David is going to wanted to actually have a meeting next Monday on the subcommittee, and then I pointed out to him that it was spring break, and a lot of people may not be available, so he's rescheduling his time on that, and he'll send that to Ashley, and she will forward that to everybody to get that out. So that's basically his report on that right now. So my whole intent on this meeting was, one, to work on the survey and make sure we got that done, which I'm glad we did. And secondly was to ensure that we had that everybody knew that we were trying to get this scheduled to completion. And I think I don't have all those yet, but I think we're making a little bit better progress on it. Any other comments we have, or any other business we have? Wally? Yeah, Wally, you're muted. Up. I'm still not hearing you.
There it is.
There
There
you
I
go.
am. I forgot to put the microphone on.
Yeah.
Not a resident, but I've been made aware of something a resident, the city ought to be aware of, unless they already are aware of working on it. The cabling going up BK's Road, I understand, is the fancy new 4K, 5K installations they're bringing in to the western part, southwest part of Austin, which is us. I don't know if you're aware of what this entails to the residential district. What it entails is going down the public right-of-way in front of the homes. And I saw some pictures of what's being installed, and about every so many homes, you're going to get a vertical installation that's about 4 foot tall and about 5 foot wide and about 18 inches thick. And it's not going to be very attractive. And I'm wondering if the city is aware of this. Are they taking any notice of it? Because I got to tell you, if it was being put in front of my house and nobody bothered to tell me it was happening, I'd be having a fit.
Good point. Who is putting in that cable? Is that
I really know nothing more about it than what I've just had a friend send me information that he gathered, and it was not here in Austin. I believe it was in Houston. And if it's in Houston, if it isn't here now, it will be. It's one of the new advancements in electronic delivery to residential homes, letting them sell you something that's going to cost another $100 a month. So it just dawned on me that if the city's unaware of it, I'm also, because I now live, I guess I live about 3 blocks out of Rollingwood. I live in Westlake Hills. So I haven't had an occasion, but I want to talk to the mayor in Westlake Hills and see what they're aware of. But the look of what I saw in pictures of that which was installed was not anything you or I would want in front of our house.
okay?
So I think that the city has some rights as to what they'll allow in their right of way along their streets, and they can require some reasonable conditions of what's done and how it's done. But at least somebody needs to be aware of it and start looking at it.
Amber?
Sure, thanks, Wally. The city was not made aware in advance. I believe they did, Carrie went out and checked to see what they were doing, but they're in TxDOT right away. That's not city right away.
I wasn't talking about what they're doing in the right of way. I could care less what they do in the right of way as long as they don't obstruct traffic. I'm talking about bringing that into your city and having pylons stuck in front of every so many houses.
The city of Rollingwood has any authority over what TxDOT puts in their right of way.
I think, I don't want to talk about, well, I think Wally's saying that that's bringing it into the area, and then their intent is it may be their intent to bring it into the residential part of Rollingwood and put up these little, the pylons that'll go in front of every other house. Is that, Wally, is that?
Well, I'm not sure it's that frequency, but I know that every so many houses, apparently they put one of these things in front. And the landowners had no choice whether they were going to get the benefit of this ugly thing in front of their house or not, or where it was placed in front of their house. Apparently it was just, they were given kind of a carte blanche, like telephone poles were given carte blanche in the 50s.
I'm not aware of it coming into the residential area. We did ask them to put up more. I think when they first deployed, they didn't have enough protection for the drivers. Carrie, we're talking, Wally's asking questions about what the cabling that's going in along Bee Cave Road.
Yeah, so it's in the TxDOT right of way, and they are not required to consult us.
I don't think he's talking about TxDOT.
So he was concerned that they might come into, he's concerned that they're bringing in pylons and they might come into the residential area, but they would have to apply for a permit to put anything in our right of way.
They would, yeah. Anything else in a right of way would need one of our right of way permits, but in this case, it's not in our right of way.
Mhm.
So we haven't been consulted on it.
Mhm.
You're misunderstanding my question. My question is, if you're not aware that this is potentially coming, probably it would be to the benefit of the citizen or homeowners to look into it further, and simply saying TxDOT doesn't tell us what's going on, then I would be looking for other sources of information. I'm a person who believes an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I think you saw it in your problems with generating plants, etc. A little planning can sometimes save a whole bunch of heartburn. So I'm not involved at this point.
His concern was it would come into our residential areas, and they would have the right to put in these pylons, various places within our city in front of homes without citizens having any input as to where it goes. Well, is that?
That's it. I'm trying to give information, because when I get information that might be interesting to 580 some lots that live there, maybe the city they live in would say, you know, let's look at this. Maybe we can do some advanced planning, so we're happy with the result.
I think we need to know a little bit more about what these things are. I've never even heard of them. If there's an official name for this device. And
it has to do with the new, I guess it's the step beyond fiber for transmission, or it's another new side type of fiber.
Remember,
I'm not a specialist in electronics. All I know is that it seems to be that this is underground cable. It is the next level up, but it does require some sort of visible fixtures to transmit it through residential areas. That's all I know about it. I'm not affected as this committee. It was something that, to my mind, I thought the city might be interested in looking into it, so they're pre-warned as opposed to playing catch up.
Thank you, Wally. I think I understand. And Amber, I think you got that. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Any other information or you'd like to have? I don't see any. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. And again, all those in favor, keep your hands down. All those opposed, raise your hand. And I don't see any. So we are adjourned. Thank y'all, and especially Ryan and Dave, thank y'all for finalizing that deal so we can get that done. And I do appreciate that, a great deal on that. And Ronald,
that's 99% Ryan.
no, he did a great job as always.
I'm not going to take the credit for that.
Well, thank y'all again, and we'll follow up. Very
Thanks,
good.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.